Before I get started in drawing the map here today, what I want to do is figure out what type of map we are doing. I want to know a couple of interesting rooms and spaces, and I'm going to be asking all of you to help me decide. But first, let me get a document open so that I can scratch out some notes here real quick. All right. So I don't want to draw a dungeon that's too outlandish here today. That's more advanced technique kind of stuff. I want to start out with something simple. So, the way I like to start designing a dungeon. Let's see here, before we get that started. Let me change over cameras. It's a once-a-month season pass thing. Oh, I see. That makes sense. Alright, so, to get us started with this dungeon, generally what I like to do... Hey, Darmoon, thank you for the bits. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So, when we get started with a dungeon, the first thing I like to do is figure out what's the dungeon's current purpose. Who lives there? What's their deal? Oftentimes, I'll also ask myself, are they the original owners, operators, builders of the dungeon? That answer is not always true, and as a matter of fact, it usually isn't, which sometimes will then inform our choices. For this dungeon, the answers are flying out quickly here. We have a request for a wizard tower, which makes for a lot of round dungeons, and we've got a evil bard dwarves. That might be who lives there now, I suppose. So let's assume that we've got an evil dwarven dungeon. We'll start with evil dwarves. Obviously, they have bards, but it can't all be bards. I mean, that's just too ridiculous. So it's a dungeon filled with evil dwarves. All right, we got that down on the list now. Let's see. What else should we add to the list here? There is a crumbling ruin of a tower. We'll keep that. All right. Evil dwarves that run a moonshine distillery. All right. Yeah. I like this a lot. I'm just picking up random bits and pieces here. Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. All right. So, I've got evil dwarves operating out of a tower, inside which they've built a distillery. So these aren't like Durgar. They don't have to be super evil dwarves. They're just dwarves skirting the law and, brewing up illegal moonshine in the darkness and kind of doing an end run around all the other merchants. So, I mean, yeah, they're not, they're just jerks. So, okay, let's start here by, let's bring the full map up. And what I've done here is, make sure I've got everything set up. Alright, there we go. Alright, so what I've gone and done is, I have created a grid space that this is a 5-inch by 5-inch piece of map here. The Darkbrew Tower. I love it. Oop. Wrong. I'm gonna go ahead and write that down just so that I have it. All right. So, what I've done is I've just opened up a basic file, and there's nothing really all that special about this file. It is 5 inches by 5 inches. It is 300 dpi, that way it's nice and high resolution. And I've gone ahead and turned on the grid. Now the upside to that is that it's doing standard 1/4 inch grid, so I've got kind of my base grid plan, and when I turn it off it'll disappear. So that'll give me plenty to work with here. Now here's what I'm thinking. There's an old wizard's tower that is collapsed off to the side. Now before I start doing any drawing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. Nope, that's a group. Add mask. Nope. Add. Create a new layer. There it is. So this layer is just, all I've done is created a blank layer that I'm just going to use to do sketching on. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a light blue pen color here. And what I'm using right now is Photoshop, and I am drawing on a Gaomon 1560 tablet. So I'm able to work with a pen directly on the map. So I'm going to start down here in the lower left corner, and what I'm going to do here at first is I'm just going to do some light sketches. I'm not Elf, thank you for the sub. I'm not going to start doing all my dungeon lining yet. All I want is some loose kind of ideas about where everything's going to go. And I'm going to give myself some pen weight here, because these are not going to be any lines that I end up using. These are literally just for me to have an understanding of where some things are. So I'm going to go ahead, and we're on the right layer. We got the right pen. Yep. I'm going to make sure I'm actually on drawing brush and not on eraser. Yeah. So I'm just drawing a bit of a bluff side. I want this to be a dungeon. So I'm going to say that there's a tower set in the side of this hillside, an old crumbling tower, and it's somewhere like that. And the dwarves found this old crumbling tower, and they decided to put their illegal distillery inside. So I'm going to assume that the first thing you run into, because they've tunneled out underneath it, is is probably some sort of guard room. So there's probably going to be some sort of guard room right there. The main distillery I'm going to put in back, because I'm going to want a lot of space for that to really kind of show it off, and considering that's probably where the big fight is going to be. So what I'm going to do is make a way for them to get the barrels out of here, but I'll deal with that in just a bit. I have an idea. So I'm going to go ahead and put the distillery itself, the brewery and distillery, is kind of up over here. We will go ahead and say that there's a storeroom down here. There should probably be like the kind of like kitchen and barracks for dwarves are kind of located up around there. We definitely need a room somewhere in here that's like the overlord or commander's room, and that should be off the general area. This could actually be a bit larger. That's perfectly fine. Get rid of some of that, just so it's doing what I want. And last but not least, we've got something that I'm going to call the ramp space. This is back where they store all of their stuff, and this is also where they dump the barrels into a stream that passes underground. Let's see, what else? Just seeing what folks are suggesting here. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So all I'm doing with this is just kind of giving myself some roughs here. I think from here we could probably have connections here. We could probably have a connection here, here, there, there. And that's pretty close. This isn't the only thing I would do. And in fact, I might actually change some of these things to make it a little different. Like maybe to get to this storeroom down here, there's actually a passageway off of this that goes to it so that they could deliver goods down there. I kind of like how some of that works. I like to give different routes and paths through this. As a matter of fact, Selendil, that's exactly what I'm thinking about, is some sort of thing where they dump the barrels of their hooch down into a stream that passes underneath the bluff nearby, and from there it's picked up downriver. So I think that could be a lot of fun. So let's play around with that. Okay. So I've got some light sketches here. I wouldn't call any of this stuff that I'm 100% attached to, but I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change. Let's see, not that. I'm going to go ahead and turn the opacity on this level way down to like 30% or so. Because I really just want it here as a ghosted outline. There we are. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and make the layer that I'm actually going to be drawing on. So I'm going to go ahead and create another layer. I'm going to lock this layer. Oh, that was back in the other menu. Oh, wait, that's the blend mode. That's funny. Why is it not letting me lock that layer? Oh, there it is. Okay. So what I've done now is I've basically gone ahead and created a rough sketch of how I want this map to work. And to actually begin the drawing, what I'm actually going to do is up my pen weight a little more. I'll go ahead and take that up to a full 8 here. We're going to swap back to a black palette. Well, that's odd. All right. So I've got a rough of where some of these pieces are going to be. So it's time to start figuring some of these out. So I'm going to go ahead and just start by creating kind of a rough bluff side here. I'm really applying as much pressure as I can because I want a heavy line weight. And looking at that, I'm going to go ahead and up my line weight some more. Because I really want this to be kind of a nice, heavy weight. That's much more like it. We're going to bring it somewhere down to around there. And pretty sure here I've got an ellipse tool. Alright, that's roughly going to give me what I want. Okay. This dungeon is is designed to be a evil dwarf moonshiner lair. All right, so let me get this started here. Oh, what was that? Oh, of course. All right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you only go blind on 3 bottles. It's fine. All right. So, what I'm doing here what I'm trying to get in here is just kind of the basics, is a rough idea of where all of my passageways and rooms are. I've got a bit of a guard room that I've decided is going to be in here. And I could turn on grid mapping, which would make these lines arrow straight. But I actually kind of like that the walls and surfaces are not perfect. Because, they're being built by, dwarves. And that doesn't mean the dwarves don't, aren't super careful about their work. But, it's not going to be perfect. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and put an alcove here. Why? Because they're fun. And it's a good place to put a statue or a trap or some other random additional feature. Looking at this, I think this is probably going to need to go all the way over to here. And I'm literally just trying to get a good sense of where the rooms are. I highly recommend doing this before you start spending a great deal of time detailing rooms and chambers, because you might suddenly find that the room that you were hoping to get totally in a space suddenly won't fit. It's a bit of a problem. Now, one of the things that they're going to need a lot of in an illegal distillery is a lot of barley or wheat, depending on what they're brewing. So I'm going to put a big giant tub space in there, and that'll be fine. Oh yeah, I of course it'll need ventilation. That I'm not even worried about. It's kind of hard to show that on a 2D map. Sometimes I like to do a 3-dimensional map to show kind of how some of that's going to work, but I don't think we are going to need to. Now, for the main brewery chamber here, what I'm going to do is I want this to be a very big chamber, because I imagine that the biggest fight of the adventure probably happens here. So what I'm going to do is create this kind of massive area where the brewing is happening. That's not quite what I wanted. Almost. That'll do for now. So, the way breweries work is you spend a great deal of time boiling up grains to release their sugars. And in doing so, you generate an awful lot of heat, which is going to make the entire room very hot, very uncomfortable. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That chamber is going to need a lot of details and a lot of pieces to make it kind of fun and exciting. That's the biggest secret to doing any dungeon successfully, is making it, you start out with rooms that are blocks, just like kind of what I'm doing right now. But the secret is making them fun and engaging by, adding more details to them, creating ways in which they aren't just a series of kind of square rooms with a variety of bad guys in them. Adding different terrain features that make the space kind of exciting. And we're going to go ahead and make this kind of an irregular shaped room. That's fine. This is kind of the boss's chamber here, and I'm gonna audible something into this. He's built a passageway that goes from his room down to the barrel room here, and I'm gonna go ahead and have this come all the way out and be filled with kind of vaults for barrels, and then kind of the main dumping area. So not making high-end liquor here. It doesn't need to be stored forever. So here's the thing. I actually think they probably just take the spilt grain, or the spent grain, and dump it probably down into the river. Right? They just get rid of it. Why would they keep it? I mean, if this were a legitimate operation, they'd probably try and sell it, but it is not a legitimate operation. Oh, hey. Oh, I just realized the new music guy set up is not set up to loop. Problem solved. Alright, there we go. Alright. So there we've got some kind of base structure drawn. Now what I want to do is start getting a little bit more detail, refining pieces, and this can take a bit, but it's worth showing off how this is going to work. So I'm going to zoom into this area here, and this is a crumbling tower. So one of the first things I'm going to want to do is kind of erase some pieces of it that are just kind of broken and ruined. It's got some holes in it, right? It's not a complete structure anymore. Alright, so I'm going to want to drop my brush size down quite a bit here because I want to start doing some detail work, and one of the first things I want to do is add a bit of a trail that leads up to this place. I'm going to start by just kind of lightly giving this a touch. Eraser. All right. And I'm assuming this is out in some grassland somewhere, so I'm going to want to Now if there's blocks of rubble and whatnot... Ooh, hey, my line weight's way too big for that kind of work. I'm going to want some blocks. I can detail in some of this more later, but I'm just kind of building out some piles of rubble that are piled up a bit around the tower. Just trying to start to give it a sense of space. Obviously, you can take a lot more time doing the detail out here. I'm kind of getting past some of this rather quickly just to give it a sense of space, but I kind of want to get to some of the more interesting dungeon elements inside. Now, one of the first things I'm going to do here is I'm going to start giving the walls some depth. And I'm going to do that by, this is a tried and true technique from way back in the day, which is just hashing the walls. Just trying to give him some weight here. And I do the hashing for cavern walls or natural walls. For dungeon walls, I do something a little different. And I'll show that here in just a second. For the dungeon walls, I like to indicate that they're stone by drawing cobbles. So that you start to get a sense of kind of what's going on here. Now, the grid on this map, I should note, is fake, right? So we can see it right now just because of, you know, how zoomed in we are. But in reality, the grid is not actually going to appear. So I'm going to drop down to a very light pen size. And I'm going to doodle in some grid. But I'm not going to do it outside. I'm only going to do it on interiors. Just so that we get a sense of kind of where the grid is. And I'm actually a really big fan of not making this anywhere near perfect. Which helps because it allows you to kind of go fast. I also like to put some scuff marks and tiling on the flooring, just to make it clear that this is, you know, old, battered cobbles, you know, old, battered stone tiling, but it still gives a sense of kind of where everything is supposed to be. Dan, I think I see you just noticed my my new emote that I created a little while back. It's become kind of a catchphrase for me, so, you know. So this is also a good chance to kind of square up some of these walls as well. The pen tool I was using before is far from super accurate on that. Giving yourself a little bit of a crisper wall edge there is just gonna look nicer. That doesn't mean they all have to be, you know, crisp and sharp, but they certainly can be, and that's gonna be okay. So now for the chamber down here, I also think I'm going to add a puddle. Now you'll notice I'm not doing any of this in color. I saw folks suggest, yeah, you can do doors and stuff in different colors. You totally can. Currently, I'm just going to stick with black and white. Not because I don't think that, you know, color isn't useful, but there is an entire additional art that you can apply by using, you know, color. Now, this tower is old and ruined. I'm going to go ahead and assume that there is a large puddle kind of in the middle of it here. I'm going to go ahead and raise my pen weight up a bit. We'll go to there. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do now is go in and erase some of my lines that I created earlier, because those are going to be underwater and you're not necessarily going to be able to see them. And then we'll go ahead and get this. There. Purple is the best color ever. I don't mind purple. Alright, so I'm going to wager that the door leading into this place is a secret. So I am going to draw a secret door right up in here. Not quite happy with that as. There we go. Alright, so we've got a secret door that leads into the hidden dwarven brewery, and now we're up to the next room. My weight's up one higher. Okay. There we are. Yeah, the blue lines are just some guidelines I did at the very beginning to give me a sense of where to put things. It was really more of just me mapping out the space. In a, if I were doing this on paper, those would all be pencil. That way later on I could come back in and just remove them. Now, we decided earlier that this room was going to be the guard room, this kind of central room here. So, I think we should probably do something a little special here. Let's see. I know what we'll do. So the the dwarves want to make sure that whoever gets into this chamber can't just walk right in, so there must be another layer of security. Aramil, thanks for stopping by tonight. Have yourself a fine evening. So here's what I'm going to add. I'm not going to add a lava pit. I think what I'm going to do is add a wall of bars. So the players come in and are confronted by a wall of bars that the dwarves can fire crossbows and whatnot through, but nobody else can get through. So let's go ahead and add a door. There we go. So they've added a wall of bars inside to keep folks out. And we'll go ahead and add some wall details here. Alright, so we've added some details to the walls here, and made this kind of a more interesting space, at least for where the guards are. And because this is a guard room, I'm going to go ahead and wager that they are pretty careful about having some doors built into here to make the whole place a little bit more secure. Seems like a dwarfy thing to do. Alright, so let's take a look at where we're at. That is a fine start to this here dungeon. Let's head south down to our grain room. Now, I said we kind of made an interesting kind of area here. That is this kind of hole in the wall. And we're gonna put something fun in there, but first, let's go ahead and build this out. I am thinking that this entire area is that this hallway has a ramp in it, because I'm thinking that they bring their supplies in and they roll them, in barrels and whatnot, and probably roll them down into this area here, so that they can go down into the supply room and be used in the brewery later. Hey there, Kimura of the Last. I am drawing a secretive dwarven distillery hiding out inside the ruins of an old wizard's tower. Evil dwarven brewers. That's a thing. At least it is now. By the way, everybody, if you're interested in seeing what this map looks like at the end and want to grab it and use it in your home campaign, I'm going to be throwing this up on my Discord when I'm done. Alright, this was... could use a bit of a haircut. There we go. Okay. So I've got a statue in here. There we go. All right. So I'm thinking that this entire hallway here is one giant downsloping ramp. To kind of illustrate that, we're going to go ahead and put some lines in here. And we'll go ahead and give that a bit of a wiggle there to indicate that it is a downsloping ramp. Put some light lining in here just for dimension. Which means you got to slide past this statue here, which might be bad. I don't know. You know, depends on what you want to do with the dungeon. Okay. How do you join the Discord? Well, I can solve that for you. Here in just a bit. I'm going to bounce up the Discord here, and I'll throw a link here in chat here in just half a second. There you go. That should get you into the Discord. All right. So I still have the storage room to finish down here. So I might as well go and finish that off. So let me go ahead and get my bricks in there. Come on. Now, obviously, if I were doing this for a published product, I would spend quite a bit more time just kind of making everything perfect. This is going fast and loose, which, you know, for a home game or something I'm going to show off to people or something I'm going to take with me to conventions, but I'm not expecting anyone to pay for, it would probably be just fine. Of course, I also, you know, generally like to pay cartographers to do the high-end stuff because they're better at it than I am. You know, I dabble. I've been drawing maps like this since I was a kid. based off the symbol set in the Menser red box from way back in the day. That's where I kind of get all my pieces from. So, and there is most definitely a door here. They used to do a thing where if a door was locked, they would indicate it with a little dot in the door. So it would look like that to indicate the door was locked on the map. I still do that a bit to this day. Not that I want that door to be locked. Too much. All right. So, this is going to be kind of the grain pit where they dump all the grain, keep it stored. So I'm going to call this an actual drop-down pit that they shovel the grain into and then get it out with buckets later. Just to have an easy way to store it. So they've just kind of created a pit. And to indicate that on the map, I'm just going to draw these lines, kind of giving a sense of depth to the space. So that's deeper down and that's where they store grain. I should also, at this point in time, probably draw some crates and boxes in here that is filled with supplies. This is, after all, the supply room. So I'm going to go ahead and put a barrel in here. And there's going to be some crates as well. I'm assuming the barrel is probably where they keep their yeast fermenting. You would want that away from everything else just in case something bad happened. Barrels would be filled with miscellaneous, the crates and whatnot would be filled with like miscellaneous supplies and things that they need, tools. Little boxes, little crates. Just put a happy little crate right over here. Alright, and we'll go ahead and put lines down there just in case someone ends up falling in there, as they undoubtedly will. You know how adventurers do. You know one of them's going to go, I wonder if they buried any treasure at the bottom of the grain vault. The answer is yes. They of course did. Alright. So, there, we're already kind of a good chunk of the way done. We're about a third of the way done with this map. I want to save the brew room for last. It's the biggest and going to be kind of the most challenging. But let's zoom in here and kind of hit the barracks while we're here. 5. The upside with Photoshop is I don't have to constantly change pens or worry about accidentally using the wrong pen. If I do, I can always change back. Relatively easy. I do like drawing with pen and ink. I find it very relaxing, but it's also can be very nerve-wracking, especially when you're really close to finishing a piece that you've spent a lot of time on and you screw up. Because, I mean, yeah, you can fix it, you know, later after you scan it and bring it into another piece of software, and you can work on it from there, but the original is always going to have that mark, and you just have to live with that now. So I'm viewing this room as the room where the dwarves mostly hang out between shifts, you know, try some of their own product. This isn't where they sleep. This is probably more like where they eat and socialize. So, you know, tables are probably in order. Just straightening up a few corners here. Adding a little crispness to them. Alright, kind of like that. This door would be locked. Just go ahead and put that mark there. So the way I've drawn this, it just so happens to be kind of the right size to put two kind of long fest hall tables in it, which I can certainly do. Trying to decide if that's the way I want to go, though. Yeah, I think it is. So let me get this down to about there. And we'll just go ahead and put two benches next to it. There we go. That's table number 1. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, should there be two tables? I actually think having a bar is probably not the worst idea in the world. So let's just say that there's one table. We'll put some stools along the far wall for folks to just kind of sit and drink. And these will just kind of be ordinary bar stools. Those can just sit there. But over here, we're going to put a big bar. Made of like one giant piece of driftwood, which I'll detail up here in just half a second. I can put mugs and stuff on there in just a moment, and behind it I can put some small kegs, which sounds like the right call. All right, so let me put a little table back here as well. And we'll put some kegs back on it. Let me go ahead and erase some of... Oh, nope, wrong button. All right. Nope, not quite. Those are the ones that have clearly been tapped already. And yeah. So yeah, I'm not going to put stools or anything. I figured the dwarves get off their shift, stop at the bar, grab a drink, and then from there move over to the tables or some of the stools on the far wall. That way there's enough stuff in here to have fun, but there's not too much stuff in the way to prevent an interesting fight. Irish baby, thank you for the bits. I appreciate that. Falile76, thanks for stopping by tonight. I hope you had fun. And let's see. I want to go all the way down to just one. This is as small as I can go on this brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna put some wood graining on this, just to make it kind of a more interesting surface. Make it read clearly as kind of a piece of wood from a distance. Put a knot in there, and this is their wooden bar. I can put a little bit of light lines in here as well, just so that the whole thing kind of reads a bit. At full resolution, you might not even be able to see some of this, but that's okay. There we go. That is looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and take this back up to 2. First, I'm going to erase a couple spots here. Mugs on the bar. All right. So let me detail out the rest of this room here real quickly. Thank you, Pixelar. I appreciate that. Some hard-working dwarves here. They need a place to rest and relax, just like all of us. Alara, thank you very much. I appreciate that as well. For those of you who might have missed it earlier, I wanted to repeat the announcement that this Friday I'm going to be streaming a good chunk of the day, I think. Where I will be streaming, I'm not sure what yet, but it's going to be Community Day, and it's going to be on Black Friday, so it's bound to be fun. Would an especially swashbucklery adventurer be able to jump on the bar and table and fight the inevitable drunk dwarves? Yes. As a matter of fact, yeah, they should lose their swashbuckleriness should they fail in that sacred duty of not fighting on the bar. No, it really doesn't like it when I try to do that, does it? Alright, so between the bar and the barracks, I think I'm going to need a door just to allow the drunk dwarves to be able to sing and dance and not wake up the sleeping dwarves. Otherwise, this place would never make sense because there'd be way too much fighting. Alright, so let me zoom out just a hair here. Let's take a look and see where we're at. This dungeon is coming together nicely here. Go over and get the barracks taken care of. Oop. Now, I think this is also probably a good chance for me to do a quick alteration here, because I've got a little bit of space. To take care of a little something important. There we go. You are correct. If the dwarves are living here, they probably need a place to take care of their business. With something shiny hidden at the bottom. Sure, you can tell your players there's something shiny hidden at the bottom of the latrine. I know what that shiny thing is. I've been a GM for long enough not to fall for that trick anymore. your GM may have taught you that, but that doesn't make it true. The toilets in dungeons do not always contain treasure. Don't listen to everything you hear. So yeah, just and this is a good example of something I should probably fix. So it's real easy to get caught in a long string of repetition, especially when you're doing wall pieces like this. Mix it up. You can go back to a repetition soon enough, but anything to kind of break up the monotony prevents it from looking like you just used a clone tool, which is exactly what you don't want. Alright. So, let me go down to my finer detail a bit here. And, yeah, the dwarves just got themselves a bucket. And we'll go ahead and put not a bucket, a kind of a hole. Leading down into the darkness, and up there are the 3 pieces of quartz that every dwarf uses. Everyone knows about that. And we'll put a curtain up in front of it. No door, just a curtain. Yeah, the 3 pieces of quartz. Everybody knows that that's what dwarves use. Come on now. Alright, so the next thing I should probably do is draw the bunks in. And these are going to be pretty simple affairs. He doesn't know how to use the 3 pieces of quartz. I see Kaffa has figured out what joke I was going for. Yeah, no, it has to be quartz. I mean, quartz is hygienic. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and draw the beds in here. I'm not going to follow the grid lines exactly. If everything fits within a grid line, it starts to look like you just kind of built everything using kind of specifically made stamps to fit in what you were trying to do. And I don't really like the look of that too much. I'm going to put posts around the ends of these. Because I think they'd probably be bunk beds. They're dwarves, and dwarves in bunk beds are kind of... that's adorable, right? I don't like that. Clean that up first. Alright. And we'll go ahead and put, we'll put the ladders down at the end of each one. We'll use the old symbol for a ladder. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Let's add some. A little bit of detail there. And let's go ahead and add some chests to this room where the dwarves can store their personal belongings. It's fun for adventurers to rifle through the clothes and undergarments of those they have just killed. Everyone knows that adventurers love to do that, so... Thank you, Madman. I appreciate that. One of these chests is a mimic. That is probably true. You know, the thing is, it actually has just been eating their clothes, and they keep blaming each other for their, you know, missing underwear. All right. So I'm feeling kind of like that's probably as much detail as this room needs, but let me go ahead and add the grid lines here. Cobwebs in the corner. Alright. Okay. So we've got our barracks now. We're getting down to some of the last bits here. Let's go ahead and take care of the captain's room real quick, or the head dwarf, the brewmaster, I suppose would be his title. I'll go ahead and clean up some of my lines here. Alright. So we've already decided that this is a secret door, and it's probably a secret door on both ends. What I'm doing here is giving my brewmaster a convenient means of escape should the dastardly heroes ruin all of his brewing machinations. So we've got that built in. Alright, let's go ahead and get the walls in. Well, yeah, it also gives him access to the to the alcohol late at night. I mean, you know, I would never trust a master brewer that doesn't regularly get tipsy on their own wares. But you are correct. Putting a trap in this hallway does make an awful lot of sense. So, to keep things simple, I think what we'll do is we'll just put a pit trap in there. And we'll get to that here in just a second, because there's some fun ways to illustrate those. All right. So we got that. Let me take my pen size down to draw detail. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put a pit trap in here. We're going to just gently draw in a box. I'm going to put an X through it. And then we're just going to put a T in the middle of it. There we go. Now we got a trap. Looks great. Okay. Happy little... Let's put a happy little pit trap in there. Is there lava at the bottom? Are there spikes? That's for you to decide. I'm not too worried about it right now. Now, this is obviously the brewmaster, and this niche makes a perfect spot for his gigantic, luxurious bed to be located. Alright, so we've got a giant four-post canopy bed located there. That's looking really good. So this map has, how will this work for actual play? So for actual play, what I'd do is I'd actually put those on a separate layer. And I would put the secret doors on a separate layer, and I would basically create a separate layer that was all of the secret stuff. That way I could toggle them on and off. That way I could produce both maps in both ways quickly. Here in Photoshop, that's real easy to do because I could actually mask out things that, you know, I wanted to be secret. So, you know, if I were to add another layer to the document, on that layer, I could start by, you know, I could do a giant box that hides that, and then I could just draw additional things to hide the fact that there is a secret chamber even in there by simply, you know, drawing the extra components directly on there. So yeah, that would probably be how I would do that if this were anything other than just a fun, you know, map to kind of show off kind of how I put maps together. Now, this dwarven brewmaster is probably going to need a desk of some sort, so let's go ahead and give him a desk. Oh, wrong pen. Right? Yes. Alright. Oh, wrong color. That was my problem. Okay. Go ahead and erase some lines in here so that I can put some things on top of it, like a book. So that's his desk and chair. Nope. What am I doing there? And we should definitely give him a chest in here where he can keep all of his valuables and all of the profits. There we go. He has a pipe that leads directly from some of the brew kegs directly to his room. No, I think illustrating that on a map and having it make sense is actually really tricky. But I will tell you what I will do. He just has his own private barrel in here, right? I mean, that makes the most sense, is that he has his own private barrel here in the room, and this is his barrel. This is the brewmaster's reserve, and in fact may actually be the entire point of the the quest. You may be coming not to shut down his operation, but to steal from it, because the the reserve is so good that it costs way too much. And the prince desperately wants some for his upcoming party and can't afford it. But he can hire adventurers to come get it. There we go. Alright. Liking how that room's feeling right now. And you know what? For his room, we're going to do something a little special, because his room is nice. And what we're going to do is his room is, like, actually properly tiled. Alright. Oh yeah, see, that pops out nicely as something that's clearly quite different. Was I going to give him a nice rug? I mean, we could give him a nice rug. Sure, let's play around with that. There we go. It really just brings the room together. Yeah, no, it's fine. There we go. Now he's got a rug. It's much nicer now. All right, so let me take care of the top room here. Oh, sorry, I haven't put all the details into the trap door or the secret passageway. There we go. All right, now this room definitely needs a fair bit of cleanup here because some of these lines are really loose. Let me get up to that. Better already. Now there's one thing of note here. I've decided that this is a ramp down, which means the storage room down here at the bottom is lower than these other rooms, which means I should probably make the brewery room lower as well. But if I do that, then I need to figure out how the brewmaster gets down from where he is at. And maybe the answer is he just kind of doesn't. Or I could put a small staircase in the end. But it is a pretty cramped corridor. Do I use Photoshop exclusively? Mostly, for what I'm doing right now, it is just Photoshop. Drawing maps like this, the tool set is pretty great for what I need to do. So, the parts that are raised and lowered, currently the storage room, the main brew hall, and probably this dumping room are all low, which means this area with the trap door, or the trap, the pit trap, probably needs stairs in it. So let me just go ahead and fix that. That's the easiest thing to do, is to build a short set of stairs in here that leads down to the secret door. That's definitely the easiest. I think I better go with the lighter line for stairs. I haven't done stairs yet, so I'm going to play around with the line weight here a little bit. I think we'll leave it without arrows. I always, you know, the steps get smaller as you go down. Some people like to put in those. I don't really think they're necessary. I think it reads just fine. Okay. Now, one thing I think I might do here is I might have... because this is the dump-off spot, this is the spot where they're dumping the barrels down into the stream. What I think I might do is actually have this be natural back here. So to indicate that it's just kind of a natural chute they found, and they're using it to dump their illegal liquor. Alright, and now we can just fill in the rest of the blocks. Okay, so I probably also want to put the kind of cleft ramp in here and have this slowly become much more of a ramp as it eventually gets down to the edge. And then this drops down way down into the abyss below. Okay, let me get to some details. Add some barrels to this room. It's one of those areas where if I wanted to save some time, I could easily create one barrel and just clone it a number of times, but I'm in no rush. How's the music working out for folks tonight? I kind of tried to add more of a mix so that there was a bit more variety. Yeah, Saturday, 4 hours of the same tune kind of over and over again was too much. Especially considering it cycled after only like a minute and a half. This one is at least like an 8 or 9 minute loop. There we go. Alright. So I've got a bunch of barrels. They're probably double stacked in these niches. And I think that's pretty much all I need to do to this room. It's just barrel storage. It's here for hijinks as the players try and find a clever way to get out once they get trapped, or, you know, they're chasing down the brewmaster who flees to this room and does a fugitive style escape over the edge, or something like that, right? Alright, so we are up to the main event. Let me go and get this up to the right line weight. There it is. Well, I think it can certainly contain an elemental. That sounds like a very dwarfy concoction. Alright. Oh, what was that? Alright, so we're getting all the last bit of the wall bricks in. That's always good. Well, I'm sure these dwarves have lots of enemies, especially if they're making, illegal, moonshine that isn't exactly of the highest quality. It's all about quantity with these dwarves. Half of them are probably gone half blind from drinking their own wares. I find city maps to be very tedious and time-consuming, but I can do them. I don't know. You spend enough time drawing maps like I have, and eventually they're all just kind of second nature. This map is more of just a, just kind of me getting in some practice and exercise. And making something fun for the folks who follow me on Discord, because if you follow me on Discord, if you're a member of my Discord, you will get the final version of this map in some resolution. I will load that up for folks to play around with later this week, as soon as I can get it done. That is looking like a very, very fine map. We'll be playing around with that tool at some point in time, but I gotta get some of these other bits and pieces finished. All right. All right. So I'm gonna put a door. To keep this interesting, I'm going to make this door locked as well. They keep the main door to the brewery itself locked, so that you don't just wander right in. And then this is going to need that staircase again. Here we'll play the same game. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. I was wondering what kept causing that error. It's because I had that box highlighted with my pen size, and I was hitting a button, and it's like, that's not a number. You just hit the E button. The star does E mean statue, yes. So the wavy line heading down means that it's a ramp. And the star is a statue that you pass by on your merry way down. All right. Those are about the same. That's fine. All right, so let's talk about the distillery itself. What it's going to have is one primary brewing area and then a distilling area. So the brewing area is where they take all the malt and they brew it to make to get out all the sugars, and then they add yeast to that to get alcohol, and then they have to distill the alcohol to make it to a high enough proof. That's the basics of it, which means I need kind of one large firing area, and then I need a second one for distilling, because those are two very different things. You don't do those in the same pot. So let's go ahead and get myself up to a nice line weight here. Almost. All right, that's pretty good. Now what we need is the secondary wall here. Not quite. You know, actually, the folks have brought up a very interesting point. Maybe both of the entrances go to a catwalk up above, or maybe just one of them does. There we go. And I will go ahead and detail that up. I like the idea. Instead of doing stairs, I'll do a ladder, and that's how you get up and down on that side. So this is all a bunch of planks of wood then. All right. There we go. That looks great. Does it have a railing? No, it does not. But I think I might put a second ladder on the other end so that you can climb up from either side. There we go. All right. So back to my still here. What I've got is kind of a nice big open space. I'm gonna go ahead and put a kind of there would obviously have to be like some big pipes that come out of the front of it. There we go. The name of this place is called the Darkbrew Tower. And then up here, they would have their still. Which that's pretty good. Not sure what I was trying to draw there. So what happens is the alcohol is taken from the beer is taken once it's fermented, is pumped over into this where it's heated again, and the alcohol comes out and rises up and then cools and recondenses so that they can collect it down in the other barrel. So basically, I'm just trying to make that manifest here. All right. All right. So, the pipes. Time to get some pipes going on in here. I think the most obvious one is the pipe that goes between these two. So there's that, and this will need brackets and stuff to hold it up. This also gives the PCs a handy target to attack if they want to destroy the distillery. Let me go ahead and put some detail work on here. There we go. I mean, PCs being hit by boiling hot alcohol is almost a guarantee in this sort of adventure, so, I mean, you know, I'm not gonna fight it. Capricola, thank you very much for the bits, I appreciate it. Okay. We're getting pretty close here. That's mostly what I need. I also need a dumping, a pipe that just goes and dumps, preferably out, but over there is kind of hard to get to, and I don't want to necessarily have that be the way, so instead I'll just say that there's a dumping spot somewhere in the room here, probably over here in the corner, so that it can be, I kind of want the one of the pipes to kind of go and be in the way to some extent, so yeah, I think I'm gonna have this pipe come over and dump out. Don't make the dwarves sad. Oop. Nearly high enough. had an idea. So unfortunately, I liked what was going on there, but there were a few flaws. There we go. This is the secondary pipe that goes to the main water tank, which I'm also then going to have be attached to the wall that goes somewhere deep, somewhere, and gets all the fresh water for the dwarves, because they need to get water. Yeah, so all of their water is coming from a well and pump that may in fact be what this is. Some sort of dwarven pumping device that gets water up out of the ground. How's it work? I don't know. Right now, I don't care. But they need to pump it up, so that's where that's coming from, and that's the spot in the room, and it creates a more interesting tactical environment. Alright, so there's only one or two more little details I want to put in here, because I want to leave a lot of this room open. I don't want this room to be so packed full of stuff that it can't be used as the big fight area with lots of minis. So I only want to put a couple more things in here. This is kind of one of those tricks where it's like, sometimes you have to show restraint and not put everything under the sun into a room just because you can. So I'm going to put some barrels in here, just of like finished product, or perhaps maturing product. Terrible. Yeah. All right. I'm feeling pretty good about this. All I need to do is add all the floor lines in here to kind of get it to a point where I feel like it is done. And I'm good to go. Yeah, I imagine that there's stuff stored underneath the catwalk and stuff. Like I said, I kind of am trying to leave some of the main floor area here kind of free of stuff. What I might do is put some, like, sacks in here. I'll show you what I mean. Just like a pile of like sacks of like grain and stuff. Just to have a little bit more variety in the space. Tempted to put a puddle as if it's leaking. There we go. All I'm doing is kind of sealing that off with a line so that if I paint bucket, which I'm about to do, it's nice and clean and I don't fill in all the spaces between all my lines. There we go. Ooh. Missed a spot. And there we go. there is our dungeon. Not too shabby. There is the dungeon of Darkbrew Tower. Well, I hope that you all have enjoyed creating this dungeon as much as I have here tonight. Thank you very much for all of the great ideas. It really has been a lot of fun creating this dungeon. For those of you who are on my Discord channel, look for me to go ahead and dump this in the Twitchy chat here sometime in the next couple days. I'll have it up by this coming Friday, which, as I will remind you, is my community day this Friday. Starting at 2 p.m. we will be celebrating another month of fun here on Twitch on Black Friday. You don't want to go out shopping. You want to hang out with me. And we'll draw some maps. We'll play some games. We'll do some trivia. We'll do some giveaways. Maybe there'll be things to buy. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it all out. So that's what we've got here. And I just realized the one thing I haven't done yet is the one thing you should always do at the end of your map. Go ahead and turn off that other layer. The sketch layer is now gone. So now the map is nice and clean and easy to read. So there you go. That's it. I hope you all have had a great time here with me tonight. I have certainly had a great time hanging out with all of you. We will see all of you on Friday. Or at least many of you on Friday. Where we will be celebrating Community Day. So thanks for hanging out with me tonight, everybody. I hope you guys have a fine evening, and we will see you next time.